On this video, I interview my ex-Christian rapper friend turned atheist. Hide your kids, hide your wife, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, yo, what's going on? My name is Ruslan, hip-hop artist, creative entrepreneur. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire you, yes, you, to live out God's dream for your life. And gotta send a big shout out to our Patreon for supporting this channel, making all this happen. I'm currently in New York City and just left the Elevation Conference, been creating a bunch of interviews, a bunch of good conversations. We've been intentionally trying to have diverse perspective, different perspectives, to have conversation where we could understand each other. And so I thought, man, who better than to have one of my good friends who is an ex-Christian rapper turned atheist comedian who I'm still really good friends with. So listen. On this episode, hide your kids, hide your wife. It's going to be explicit. And so I'm not going to ask him to censor himself. I'm just going to let him be himself. You know what I mean? And so without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Rufat Agayev. What's up, man?
Hey, did anybody think I'd look this nice when you gave that big scary intro?
I feel like all my fans in New York already know who you are. So
yeah,
you know what I'm
saying? it's the atheist wielding Rufat. He's gonna curse you out. Say, hey guys, I'm just losing my hair. See a lot more on my forehead now. This guy's not scary at all. Is this what Christians are afraid of? A guy that looks like me?
I think so.
Hey, y'all fought Goliath, right? Y'all scared of me now?
Yo, so backstory, me and Rufat met on mp3.com. This is
SoundClick.
Was it SoundClick?
SoundClick.
I think it was mp3.com.
It was SoundClick.
It was SoundClick, okay. This is pre-Facebook, pre-MySpace. Apparently pre-mp3.com, SoundClick, we connected on there. He was a fellow Christian hip-hop artist living in Tallahassee at the time?
No.
Where were you staying at?
I was in St. Petersburg, Florida. And when I had come across your profile, I remember I was visiting my mother in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so we met on the internet. You're like my first internet friend. And
what?
Yeah, bro. And
are you serious?
I'm so serious,
bro. I had on AIM. I had a Mexican girl that I was talking to in Chicago who was my girlfriend. It was probably a man. But
you was getting catfish before catfish was the thing.
You gotta get more internet friends if I'm your first.
What is this? This is like 2001, 2000, 99?
Dude. In 98, I was like, yo, who got titty pics? Like, I was exploring, man.
Okay, so we met. What we had in common is we were both hip hop artists. We were both Christians at the time, and we are both from the same country, Azerbaijan, Baku, from the same city. We were both born, and we both came out here as refugees. Tell briefly your experience of like being a refugee coming to America, hip hop. We were talking about it earlier. You know what I mean?
I came here in 92.
Okay.
War, bang, bang. It sounds cool, but the thing I'll say is like, you know, like do you use the word fled? Like, do you tell people you fled?
I think so, yeah. Fled because of religious persecution?
Yeah, but you flew here.
Yeah,
it's not that exciting. Don't gas these people up like you were ducking like rounds of bullets and stuff like that. We got a clean getaway. It wasn't, we weren't hopping no 20-foot wall, doing no 1,500-mile trek from El Salvador. We're some soft ass refugees.
This is yeah. I mean, it was bad though. It was bad. It was bad for our families.
Yeah, not taking anything away, but
how old were you when you came? 5?
5.
Okay. Yeah. And I was 6 in 91, the middle of 91.
Came here when I was 5, and just kind of I remember seeing BET for the first time and like watching hip hop videos, and that's like what I kind of fell in love with. I remember being in elementary school and like I would hang out with like kids like Malcolm Barnes who had like all the fresh kicks, and like I just fell in love with music, fashion, everything that had to do with hip hop and basketball in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
And so you then started rapping. Well, how old were you when you started rapping?
I remember writing my first raps when I was in the 6th grade, so like about 12.
Okay.
And then when I started like going to church, because I went to church because I was hanging out with this kid who had committed arson. Okay. And he was forced to go to a youth group, and then I met like a Christian rapper who was a youth minister at that youth group or whatever. And I stayed. He didn't end up, and I just like it gave me a sense of purpose. The funny thing is that youth pastor who like helped introduce me to the Lord now lives in that little town of Erie where my mom lives, and is like an abstinence counselor.
An abstinence counselor.
Yeah,
that's
man, it's weird.
All right. So you start rapping. We met probably a couple years after that, right? You're 12, because I feel like you were young. You were like 14. I think I was like 16 when we met over the internet. And then we ended up like meeting in person several times. You came to Cali. I never came to visit you.
No, not until I started living in New York. I came to, it was crazy. I had become, I was in college at Florida State University, and I had made this group of friends. We were all cool, and one of them was from Cali. And I was like, yeah, man, I know some people in Cali. Ruslan. He's like, you know Ruslan?
Yeah.
He's like, my brother's
I was good friends with his brother. Yeah.
Anthony Yan.
Anthony Yan. Yeah.
And again,
it's a trip.
Small world, man.
Trip,
it's
bro.
a small world. And then I go to, for spring break, we end up going to San Diego.
Yeah, that was dope. So you were Christian rapping. You were weren't you loosely affiliated with like Urban D and like the whole like, was it Flavor Fest or what is the church called?
I never performed at Flavor Fest.
He knows who you are though.
I know he knows who I am, because one day I remember like my big thing is like, yo, we gotta perform at Crossover, and we did.
That's right, Crossover. Sorry, I feel terrible. If you're watching this, Urban D, my bad. He's brought me out to Crossover. Amazing church. So you were trying to rock at Crossover. You were trying to rock.
I did. And then like a week later,
you thought your career was going to take off. You thought your Christian rap career was going to blow up after you performed at Crossover, huh?
I guess. But it was like, it was cool to do, because like it was like the thing to do.
Right.
And he pulled me aside the next week, and he's like, he pulled me and my group member aside the next week and sat us down in like a private like area. And I was 14 at the time, like brand new to the faith. And he's like, yeah, man, I just, I like what you guys do. Yeah. But, you guys have like a humility issue. And your egos are big. And it's not mostly you, David. It's you, Rufat.
Yo, shout out to Urban D, man.
Wait. No. I'll fight Urban D. Yo, if you hear
Tommy's the homie, man.
I mean, I still fight him. I don't care, man. No, but I never understood like what he was, still to this day. I don't understand what he was talking about.
He was trying to shepherd you.
Man, I guess so. Then, but that's a funny thing that happened. I don't have no resentment towards the dude. But yeah, that's a funny thing that happened. He's like, you need to humble yourself. And I was like, what am I don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah. I think what he meant is like, you need to take medication for your ADD or something.
Okay, so look, I remember when you was Christian rapping, like you was Christian rapping. Like you was not only were you dope, I think you made really cool music, but like I remember getting on the phone with you, and I feel like I've always kind of been this like kind of Christian, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, I don't know, man. And I remember one time he was like, yo, we was at this thing, and this girl, she had a demon, and I prayed over her in tongues. And you was like,
but you know what? I like the fact that I go all in on things like that, because it really causes me to either stay in it or get out. Yeah. And I don't mind that obsessiveness about myself. Yeah. Because then I know whether something is truly for me or not.
Yeah, and we'll tie that into kind of where you are now with comedy and all that kind of stuff, which I think is super fly.
Oh, I don't even care about that. But I'm just saying, like, if I'm going to do something, like, I'm going to go... Because it makes no sense for me to believe in Christianity. Mm-hmm. And still to this day, I think this. It makes no sense for me to believe in something if I don't feel like... Especially, like, an all-powerful, omnipotent, whatever, infallible, whatever all the things you attribute to God. if he can't work through me and do all these cool supernatural like Avengers shit, then I don't want to believe in a God. You know what I mean?
So in hindsight, like the tongues and the casting out demons and all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you view that in hindsight? Of you're not a Christian anymore. Would you identify as an atheist, or you lean towards atheism? Like,
I'm a sorry, Urban D. I know. I'm an atheist.
You're breaking a lot of those. You're breaking hearts right now. I do have atheist friends, guys.
Yeah, I would say I'm an atheist. I see there's no need for a God.
Yeah.
I
want to talk about how you got there, but I'm curious, like, how do you view those experiences in hindsight? Do you feel like you were kind of like under a psychosis? Like, is it just kind of like what do you think about it?
It's crazy what one can do when one really believes in something.
Right. The power of faith, regardless on which God or whatever, like, is powerful.
It is the power of faith. I agree with that. But what's even more powerful is the hurt that exists within us and the vulnerability that attracts to things that might not be real. So like when you are told you have an issue or when you are told you have a problem and you want to fix it and there's this eternal all-powerful solution, you go all in.
Yeah. So talk to me, because it wasn't an overnight thing, but how did you go from like casting out demons and rapping about Jesus to now identifying as an atheist? Like, how did that, just tell me that process.
See, here's the thing that like most people don't really understand is that whole time, even when I was like doing all these things, I had so much doubt in my heart and in my mind. And there would be times where I'm like, I don't believe in God, but I had friends to kind of like pull me back into the faith.
You never expressed those doubts to me, though.
Going through or I'll be going through something. Here's the crazy thing: is the night before my pastor had me rebuke a demon at church for the first time when I was like 16, 17. I remember being on the phone with another very charismatic prophet and him being like, ask God to show you that he's real. And then the next day, this lady had a demon at church, and things like that make you like, especially if you're like doubting, they now like kind of entrap you with fear, like, oh my God, well, I prayed that prayer and then that happened the next day. Yeah. God has got to be real.
Right.
And it's like, no, he doesn't have to be anything.
So walk me through the process, because I kind of know the story, but walk me through the process. Like, how do you go?
I always had doubt.
You always had the doubt.
And then I ended up going to college, and no, it wasn't a professor or anything like that. I just remember that
smoking a little weed.
Nah.
I'm just playing.
Nah, like that's like the thing. You even know me now. I don't care. I hate weed. Weed is terrible. What? Yeah, I hate anything that gives you pleasure. You know what I mean? It's nuts. I hate it all.
Tell the story.
That's the one thing that Christians do have right.
Yeah.
Is that
they hate pleasure.
Yes. If you could just rid me of the God part and give me like the suffering,
the discipline and the suffering.
Yes. That'd be my perfect faith.
All right,
it's like you suffer, but then you get no reward in the end. That is the perfect faith to me.
So walk me through. You go to college.
I'm going through like I think I was like going through a breakup with my girlfriend. I'm not sleeping at night. I'm just like staying up all times of the night, listening to like a lot of jazz and like a lot of like music.
That devil's music.
I know. And then like, I don't know, man. I just like kind of going through my thoughts of like disbeliefs that I always had. And I remember seeing a George Carlin clip, like his stand-up about religion. It's like a 9-minute bit. And he says all this stuff that I've been so scared to say my entire life. And it just like clicks for me. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And you could see this clip on YouTube or whatever, but it's like a 9-minute clip. It's just George Carlin on religion. And it like made everything clear for me, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So what ended up happening was like I went from like your Pentecostal Christian to your Rob Bell Christian, to your
that daggone Rob Bell.
I don't know what this is anymore, to just like, I don't see a need for there to be a God
at all.
At all.
Okay. So that's very interesting. Andy Mineo said something on his Track Stars interview. Shout out to Track Stars. I said this to you earlier, and he said we think the opposite of faith is doubt. He said, I don't know if he made this up, but it's a great quote. He said, we think the opposite of faith is doubt. He said, the opposite of faith isn't doubt. The opposite of faith is fundamentalism, right? And do you think that because there wasn't room for doubt in your faith, because there wasn't room for questions, that you went so hard into a fundamental, have an answer for every question, have this neat view of everything, that is maybe what yo-yoed you the opposite direction, like sprung you the opposite direction, maybe?
I think so, but you also got to remember who I was as a kid. Like, I was a bad kid. I didn't respect authority.
You were a rule breaker.
I was a rule breaker my whole life.
Yeah.
I remember being young and telling adults, like, why do I have to respect what you say just because on some off chance you were born before me? Like that was a thing. That was a conclusion that I had come to when I was 10, and just seeing my parents, like, they got divorced a lot. I just seen a little bit too much as a kid sometimes. And so, like,
so there was some trauma there.
Yeah. Like, I needed something to make me feel like you need to do the right thing and you need to stay on a course and you need to stay on a path, because I wasn't really getting that from my parents,
Yeah.
And so God helped provide that. And if it was with a little bit of fear or with a little bit of demon stuff, cool. But I don't think I would have made it to college or gotten to college and, like, followed rules if it wasn't for me believing in a God.
So there was a practical utility to your faith, even though you don't have faith any longer.
Yes. And when people ask me, like, well, how could you live like this now? And, like, aren't you scared? And it's like, nah, because now I realize, like, I realize, like, that I have principles set in my life that I follow and that I like and that make me feel comfortable and cause the anxiety and stuff to like, minimize a little bit, so
that's good. So I think I kind of have two fundamental questions for most atheists, right? And we've had these conversations. We talk about this stuff all the time. We talk in circles. And I think they tend to be pretty fruitful, in my opinion, because we can have real fun conversations and at the end of the day just agree to disagree and still be friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, we never get into our feelings about it.
I don't think so.
And hopefully this isn't intended to be a debate, because I feel like you're a lot of times way more eloquent than I am with the way you can present information. So this isn't intended to be a debate, but I have really two kind of like fundamental questions, right? The first one is, like, what causes the universe to fall in order, right? Like, do you really believe that there was nothing that pushed everything in order, that everything is random, everything is an accident, like we are all just byproducts of randomness? Like, you really believe that?
I don't think you would call it randomness. Okay. From what I've known and from what I've either read or, it's billions of years, tests and trials, refinement until something sticks or something doesn't. And I think even now, as you can see with us as people, we're going through like an evolution of ourselves now with like climate change and technology and like the way that our brains are adapting to this thing in our, next thing you know, it's going to be in our head, and then part of our organs are going to be robotic. Like, we're constantly evolving. So yeah, I think that, like,
but you think that doesn't that kind of contradict like just basic physics, that like something had to have propelled and pushed all this in?
Oh yeah, well, motion? I mean, there's like the whole Big Bang thing. You know what I mean?
Okay, but where did the Big Bang come from?
Where did God come from? This is where.
Well, God is an eternal being outside of time, and outside of needing to be a creator.
Matter, antimatter. You know, from what I know, matter, antimatter, and one went a little bit the other way, and then boom, explosion, life forms over billions of years, and
but it's still all without order. Like it's still because like, you know, the way the planets are rotating, the way the sun, like all these finite details.
This is something that Rob Bell would talk about, is like the design theory for why God exists. Yeah. I mean, but you're the one who puts a purpose to them. You know what I mean? You're the one who acknowledges that. I mean, there's also just a lot of randomness still. There's still a lot of randomness, a lot of beauty, a lot of mystery, a lot of unknowns, and I like to keep them that way.
Do you think it's possible, not maybe not probable to, but do you think it's possible that some being pushed everything, whether it was through the Big Bang, through intelligent design, through literal creation, through evolution? Do you think it's possible that something outside of us and outside of randomness could have propelled the entire universe into order?
I mean, yeah, that's something, like I said, is like matter, energy, over billions of years, refining itself.
On its own, though, don't that sound wild, though? Like on its own,
well, you want to
just kind of everything falling apart, falling in place perfectly. We're billions of years later. Now we're here having this conversation.
But you got to turn that same mirror back at what you believe.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? You got to turn, like you think that there's like, I think the thing that Christians think is that like the plan and everything was so perfect and designed, but it's not even in your own doctrine and theology. It's like, oh, so for like 3,000 plus years, there was just Jews in the desert going around, being, think about how the scope of history, and you only can account for 5,000 years of it. More than 3,000 of those years, you were slaughtering sheep to put blood on your head or your walls for atonement. It sounds goofy. Sorry, Jewish people.
Yeah.
It sounds goofy.
Sure.
And then some guy in one part of the world, it now is like the savior of the whole world. What do we need saving from? How has anything changed? It hasn't. We just as people have evolved through culture. And if you really want to look at it, morality, like true human morality and behavior, we're still not at the point that we need to be, because you guys already believe in a fallen world, but it's like so many things have been set into motion, and people try to make sense of it, but I just don't see there being any sense. So like that whole thing of like randomness or whatever, I do think
that makes more sense to you.
It makes more sense to me, just because how messed up we are as human beings, and how we think we're like, people want to believe that they're Erykah Badu and they're spiritual entities and that their crystals matter. But at the end of the day, we are horny. We like to eat. We like blood. We like oil. We like territory. We like, in each and every one of us, we feel good when we get something and somebody else doesn't. But when somebody else gets something, we're jealous. We're sick. And we try to find remedies for it. And one of those could be religion. Or one of those could just be like, hey, man, none of this means anything. And I need to be fine with that.
But isn't that none of this means everything? Then like, what's the point?
The point is just to live your life and be happy with the knowledge and the experience that you get through it. I would kind of bring it to this point, like writing comedy for me, right? I free write every morning. Nobody sees me free write. I mean, I could maybe go and free write at a coffee shop with a friend. But every morning I get up and I try to free write. And it's just random thoughts. I don't know if anything's going to come out of it. And sometimes, boom, something hits me and it's a surprise. And I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't even know I would thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't know this was even in my brain.
Right.
And so it's just me giving myself time, giving myself a little opportunity, and a little surprise comes along. And I think that's kind of like what life is like, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to come up, but give yourself a chance, man. Like give yourself a chance and just see what happens. And that's the only thing I could really take away from life because
that's sad, man.
No, I don't think it's sad at all. I think it's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. And I think processes refine who you are.
No, I'm saying the processes do. I'm just saying nothing like give yourself a chance.
But what's so sad about that?
Well, it's sad that like this is it. Like this is it, and based on the hands you were dealt or not dealt, based on where you were born and not born, based on whatever, like you are subjected to the existence of this lifetime.
But faith and religion is the thing that keeps us being satisfied with the current condition.
I completely disagree.
But then why did all these emperors and high-ranking government officials still to this day, God bless America? Why do they have to keep God at the forefront of everything? It's to keep people being like, well, you know, I don't have shit now, but in the thereafter, I will. Nah, like
you're saying
fuck that.
You're saying that's used as a manipulation tactic.
Like if everybody on like on a consciousness level, if it just hit everybody today, rural America, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, this is the only thing that we have. This is the only time that we'll ever get. People be like, oh shit, well that means like maybe we should treat people fairly, and maybe I don't need three Ferraris.
I think the total opposite. I think this, and this is where my second question comes from, is if there is no God, how do you figure out what's right or wrong? Like where does your sense of morality come from? Because if there's no God, there's no absolute truth. If there's no absolute truth, then it is fight and might is right. Whatever is the biggest, largest, then imperialism is correct and war is correct, and whoever wants whatever they want, they can, and rape and murder. Why is any of that stuff wrong?
Yeah, that's clearly that's the world that we live in.
Yeah, but we would agree that murder is wrong and that rape is wrong, right?
Well, here's the thing: is like, why do you think so low of people that we can't figure that out?
Because left to our own devices, we haven't figured it out.
I think we have. I think there's just a lot of coercion that goes on from the people that already get something or have something, and they want to keep it, and they want to keep other people down, and so like. You look back at 100 years from now, there was a dude or a woman or someone that's like, yo, this shit is fucked up right now. Yo, we need to change this. And nobody listened to him. And in 100 years, then we read it now and we're like, oh man, this dude was right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if you listen to one Noam Chomsky speech, you know what I mean? Listen to one Noam Chomsky speech. The marketing of consent. How like consent for certain things is marketed to us. The government does marketing campaigns on like shifting people's focus. There was a marketing campaign behind the war in Iraq. That's what Gary Vee needs to study. Is like how did they market the war to Iraq to us? Yeah, because that was the real big branding plan.
No, I remember that.
Do I sound crazy right now?
No, I'm just trying. I want to stick to this idea of like.
Well, how do we know right or wrong?
Yeah.
We as people know right or wrong. We've always known right or wrong. There was the crazy thing is that it was like
so we learn right or wrong collectively, like we learn right or wrong based on whatever the collective.
Yes.
But what if the collective position of what's right or wrong positions
there was pilgrims,
somebody
right?
to be wrong and somebody to be right.
There was pilgrims giving people smallpox blankets so they could take over their land because they had greediness with them. And then there was the Quakers, who were Christian at the time. You know what I mean? But like, there's gonna be people with like the correct viewpoint and the correct morality. It's just sometimes we don't listen to them, and it takes a couple of years for us to catch up. And I know that's sad and depressing that people live a lifetime stuck in a mindset that eats away at them.
Yeah. So we as collective people decide what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So was slavery right?
No.
But the collective.
But look how long it took to come to make everybody believe in that. And that's the sad thing. There's certain things that are going on now that 100 years from now, our kids, if we even have, if I have kids, or or if we'll even be around in the next 100 years, we'll look back and be like, oh my God, my grandfather, when he was podcasting, the stuff that he was talking about, I can't believe they had to deal with that. I got robotic organs, healthcare.
But what I'm saying is slavery is wrong.
Yes.
Because human life is intrinsically valuable, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your race. Your race, regardless of your socioeconomic status. There's value to human life. So slavery was wrong 400 years ago. Slavery was wrong 200 years ago. Slavery is wrong today, where there are still slaves. And slavery will be wrong 100 years from now. That wrong comes from what I believe is us being created in the image of God, the Imago Dei, where we are intrinsically wired to know wrong from right, we know. Because we know murder is wrong, we know rape is wrong.
Because now we're saying the same thing, bro. I'm thinking that it just comes from us, and you're just giving it to God. He doesn't get the credit for that. I'm not giving him, her, that, I'm not giving that any type of.
But what I'm saying is you're giving it to people, and I'm saying you can't give it to people because left to people's own devices, they will do what's collectively for a group of people, for those who are in power, for those who are stronger, for their benefit.
How can you? What I'm saying is that as we evolve as society, right? We didn't have deodorant back in the 1600s. Now people smell like
the same thing.
No. But listen to me, okay? So like we evolve morally, technologically. Things get better over time. There's, I took sociology, waste of time, but, but crimes are down. You know what I mean? The world is getting better. There's some areas where we're getting worse, but as far as like crime and everything like that, human rights are getting a little bit better as a collective, as a whole, the world. There's certain areas still very far back. Now, what I'm trying to say about this, and I'm trying to find the right way to word it, is that you say that we need God for all of these things for us to know morality. However, the book that you believe in doesn't support your claim, because if God had these absolute ideas, how come your book goes from you can't wear 2 types of cotton to walk by faith? Like clearly, even in your book is documented a moral evolution. That you want to attribute to God, who you say
there was different agreements for different pieces of history, different covenants, different arrangement that were more cultural, that were more custom based.
It's kind of what I'm talking about now.
But in the fulfillment of that law of Jesus coming, a lot of that stuff was thrown out, like tattoos, like not eating, red meat with blood in it. Like a lot of that stuff was cultural and custom.
It sounds like it's just humans making shit up as they go.
I don't
That's
think so.
what it sounds like.
I don't think so. I think
we
God.
Want to why would you attribute it to God? Because it makes God seem finite. It makes God seem silly. Because, like, yo, if you're God and you got like these abilities to talk to Moses through a burning bush and etch out cool cholo font in a fucking commandment.
Whoa, man.
you know, like on the scripted tattoos.
I know what you're saying.
But yeah, man, like if you have all these powers, why not just right then and there nip it in the butt and be like, yo, slavery is wrong. Don't tell people they can have slaves and then 3,000 years switch your position up, God. So it doesn't really look like this is God telling these people things. It looks like people making shit up as they go and then attributing it to a higher force, which I think happens now. We're making shit up as we go because we know the world is broken and we're fucked and we don't want to come to an agreement with it because it's scary.
I mean, when you view it that way, it is scary. Okay,
but isn't it beautiful though? Isn't it beautiful?
I think what's beautiful is what I want to get on my next question.
Student loan debt. I'm not scared of you. I'm gonna die, and I will never have to pay a single dollar to you.
Let me ask you this. What I think is beautiful is that in light of all the chaos of the universe, in light of this fallen humanity, just that we agree that there's evil. Yeah. You know, however you want to word it, there is evil. We are incomplete as humans. We are incapable of making the best choices, even if our own subjective morality, right? You're saying it's subjective to ours. I'm saying I don't think that's true, because I think we could subjectively say, well, in this context, murder is right, and in this context, murder is wrong. So that's why I would push back on that.
War and stuff like that.
We do that with wars.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of unjust wars that we shouldn't be in.
That we attribute to God, and we do the.
I don't.
We do Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah, I don't.
And then we say God bless America.
I was against that war, and there was a lot of Christians that were against that war. There was
drones.
There was Christians at Flavor Fest speaking out against the war in Iraq, and they were getting ridiculed. You know what I'm saying? At Crossover Church. This is 2002, 2003. I remember that.
Well,
so
in the words of Tommy, they need to humble themselves.
So look, so my question is, where are you with Jesus? Like, Jesus being a historical figure, Jesus being someone that is documented by both Christian and secular scholars. And I view my faith through the lens of Jesus. So like, if I believe in the historical person in a historical vein, and then I reverse engineer everything after that. You know what I'm saying? Through that lens. So like, was Jesus a real person?
He could be if he wants to, yeah.
No. Historically. Like, this is a historical question.
I mean, there's accounts that somebody named Jesus existed.
And did some cool stuff and did some miracles and stuff like that.
Nah, no miracles.
No, there's historical accounts from secular scholars that he did miracles.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
So there was a man named Jesus who did miracles. Who was crucified by Romans. Who was crucified by Romans because they thought he was trying to overthrow their empire. And then
there's also witches that were crucified in what is it, Salem. You know, because I don't know, they were acting weird because they were goth.
Okay, yeah.
So like,
not the same though.
They weren't doing miracles. Neither was Jesus.
The difference with Jesus is that there was dissent amongst that community because of the stuff he was saying, because of the stuff he was doing, because of how radical he was, and pushing back against the Pharisees, right, and pushing back against the religious leaders at the time. And then the historical event that like, his body can't be found, and we believe that he rose from the dead. Like, we believe the resurrection is a literal event based on the 500 eyewitness account. Based on
500. Where are these 500 eyewitnesses, bro?
It's in the scriptures. It says there was 500 eyewitnesses. He was around for 40 days. And listen, no. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. And we've never seen any other religious leader have this much of an impact where 2,000 years later we're still worshiping him. We're still believing
Muhammad, the fastest growing religion on earth right now?
Not the same at all, because Muhammad never claimed to be God. Muhammad never did miracles.
No, I understand that, but he rode on a magic carpet, and people walk around a black rock in Mecca, and like, they really believe in that.
Yeah, they believe him as a prophet. They don't believe him as God.
No, we believe Jesus is God. I mean, there's some people that take Jesus' account and they don't believe him to be God. There's Jehovah's Witnesses don't think he's God,
and they're wrong.
See again, but this is your belief about it.
But this is my belief in a linear, logical
You know what this
sense.
Turns into?
What is that?
This turns to scanning Shannon and Skip Bayless in the morning, and instead of us arguing about LeBron, it's Jesus. And where we think he fits in the canon of historical figures. And
he's at the top,
goofy.
He's at the top.
Well, yeah, through, the Roman Empire.
Sure.
Through...
That was 400 years after, though, the resurrection.
No, I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So you had a bunch of...
Through the Church of England.
A bunch of average dudes.
Through the Roman Catholicism.
Who were not the smartest or the sharpest... dudes.
Yeah, I've heard this.
That went on to radically transform history. You know what I'm saying?
Not always in good ways.
we're talking about the early church. I'm not talking about Constantine. I'm not talking about all that
history did they transform in those early days?
Their environment, those circles, the community that they built, the way the gospel was then spread to the known world at that time. It spread all the way to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Ethiopia was the first nation to establish.
It's not like they invented a wheel. It's not like they came up with an iPhone. It's just Jesus.
Yeah, but Jesus was the catalytic moment. That resurrection transformed everything, and now you have the biggest spread. And not only that, but then you have all these dudes that went on to be martyred and die horrible, horrific deaths for something that they would have had to have known was a lie.
I want to know why.
No, answer that though. They would have all had to collectively agree and know that Jesus didn't rise, including his own brother had to know that Jesus didn't rise.
There's kids strapping themselves with bombs.
Yeah, but the difference is those kids are being deceived and they're being manipulated, and they don't know that what they're dying for is a lie. These people would have all had to know that without a doubt, this dude was not the Son of God, that they tricked his body and buried his and hid his body, and then all go on to die horrible deaths when they could have just been like, hey, this is what happened. This is where the bones are at. We finessed y'all. Don't kill me. I'm not trying to get crucified upside down. I'm not trying to get beheaded.
Those aren't facts. Those are just
those are facts.
No.
Fam, those are facts.
What I'm trying to say.
Paul was a real person.
Hold on.
Peter was a real person. These guys were facts.
I'm not saying that they weren't real people. I'm saying just those aren't facts for a personal God that hears your prayers and answers them. Nor does that make Christians true. All that is just you connecting dots to fit your belief system and to rationalize it and to make it more logical. When you could I don't think it's that simple. Where the most logical thing that you can possibly think, I think is like kind of what I think is like miracles aren't real. I ain't seen a good thing happen to me in my life once. Nah.
Dang, bro.
No, but like miracles aren't real. We got to take care of each other as people. The only way we'll ever advance as a people is through science, education, knowledge. The more we open ourselves up to learning, receiving, and trying to fix things, that's the only way we'll get better. None of that other stuff.
What about love, though? What about love? Like, what about love?
That is love.
What about empathy? What about kindness? What about compassion? What about all these things that Jesus was the biggest proponent for?
You think those are new things that nobody has ever thought about?
I think
Eastern religions had these things far.
They had some of those things, but the way Jesus erased the racial divide between the Jews and the Samaritans, the way Jesus empowered women, the way Jesus, he did so many radical things that were so contrary to culture, that was so in the face of religion. And again, this is a guy running around claiming to be God. This is why they crucified him. He claimed to be God, and then he said, I'm going to come back, and then he came back and was around for 40 days.
Then he said he was going to come back again.
He's coming.
How crazy would it be if he came back and he had the footage of me like, nah.
What if he came back right now? What if he knocked on the door and it was Jesus? No, but look, I think this is where you've made some great points, and I'll just be like, man, some good points. I think, because I struggle with a lot of that stuff. No, you're laughing, but we've had these conversations. I struggle with a lot of the passages you bring up. I struggle with a lot of those things in the scriptures. But again, my faith is just very simple. I sincerely, truly believe that based on history, based on just logic of those people, and based on my own experience.
But these are arguments I've heard my whole life.
I know. That's why it's fun to have these conversations.
Even when I was a Christian, mm-hmm. 8th grade, I would go to sleep listening to Ravi Zacharias,
Yeah.
And to this day, I go to sleep listening to debates with William Lane Craig and Christopher Hitchens.
Somebody told me I was on the way. I was like, yo, I'm finna my buddy Lamar, who was with me. I was like, yo, I'm finna have my boy Rufat, like he's like an ex-Christian rapper turned atheist. We're gonna do an interview, and he's like, yeah, man, you need to expose him to some Ravi Zacharias. I don't even know who Ravi Zacharias is.
No, I listened to Ravi Zacharias. I read his books. He got me into C.S. Lewis. You know, but yeah.
So I've heard these arguments. Would agree that it's possible that there's a God. It's possible. We'd agree on that. I'm not saying you have to say that there's a God. I'm saying the possibility.
The only way that I see it, that there could be a God, is if there's a deist God. That's about as far as I'm willing to go, and which is like a thing, which is not much different from what atheists believe already. Is like a thing, the power, the universe, energy.
We believe
setting, you know, having some type of effect. But like, what I mean by a deist God is like,
I know what you mean by
communicate
I know what
with
you mean by deist God.
Doesn't interfere with anything.
Okay,
because it doesn't look to me like God is interfering with anything now.
Can we agree on the fact that what Jesus taught and what his heart was for people was good, was great. It was
some
awesome.
Things, not everything.
What do you feel like what Jesus taught? We don't need to talk about the Old Testament. What did Jesus taught that you feel like was not helpful for humanity?
I will bring a sword between mother and father. No, was it mother and father? Father and son, mother and daughter. You know, like all of this like end of days talk.
You don't appreciate the end of days talk.
Well, it's not even an end of days talk.
And you don't appreciate the hell.
He was like,
you don't appreciate the hell talk.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay,
it's terrible. As Christopher Hitchens put it, it's like, I don't want to worship a king. You know, Kim Jong-un, you know what I mean? Wow. I don't want to go to your spiritual North Korea, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, but on it can sound like that if you just pull those things out of context.
Even so, look at a woman in lust. Get out of here.
You've
Jesus.
committed adultery in your heart, because what he's saying is if you okay, here's a great example. I did a Bible study on this, right? Christians are rule keepers, right? They're religious people are rule keepers, right? So just follow me for a second. So Christians is like, yo, you know, I didn't commit this sin, right? I didn't do this. The religious people are like, I didn't do this. And Jesus is like, yeah, but if that was even in your heart, like, you might as well have done it. And this is what I'll parallel it to. And I did a Bible study on this. It's on the Patreon. Christians are very much like, no profanity, no cuss words, no profanity, no cuss words. Unwholesome talk. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, right? And they think that's limited to like 4 words, right? F word, S word, the B word, and like, if you're in Europe, then the C word. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's those 4 words, right? Yeah. But that scripture is what it's real. What those scriptures are really saying is, you think it's about language. I'm saying let nothing unwholesome come out of your mouth, but what's edifying and encouraging and uplifting. You think the standard is, don't go put your penis in somebody else's wife. I'm saying if you're coveting and you're envying and you're jealous and you're admiring something that someone that isn't your spouse, that you've committed adultery in your heart. That the standard, you say, don't, you know, you've heard that it said that do not commit murder. But I'm saying if you hate your brother, you've committed murder in your heart. Love your enemies. Right? Like, these are amazing values and virtues that what it does is it diffuses the ability to be self-righteous and say, Rufat, I'm a better person than you because I don't cuss, and you're an atheist and you cuss. I'm a better person than you because I don't commit adultery, and you know what I mean? Like, it diffuses that self-righteous spirit, and it says, no, we're going to level the playing field. Everybody is a sinner. And to make the good news is everybody's a sinner. That's the bad news. The good news is, and I've came to pay atonement for your sins and to live the life that you couldn't live and die the death that you should have died. That the way you describe humanity as jacked up, as wicked, as terrible, as evil, Jesus said, you're right, Rufat, and I did something about it. And I decided to go to the cross and pay that penalty, because the wages of sin is death.
how am I going to?
Isn't that beautiful though? Like, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
isn't that a beautiful story?
And I still quote certain scriptures. I wear Saint Lazarus around my neck. I think Saint Lazarus is.
Who's the man?
Huh?
Who's the man?
Yeah.
He was the first dude Jesus brought back from the dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, didn't he bring back
4 days
the
and
girl?
He was smelling.
Yeah, 4 days, and he was like, remember he was like, he brought Lazarus back from the day he was 4 days. Jesus was only dead in the tomb for 3 days.
Therefore, Lazarus it might be Lazarus's joint. Yeah, we might need to start worshiping Lazarus.
I think this is the tough part. I think if we look at Christianity, we can look at the terrible things that were done.
But can we also
on the
like
Crusades.
look at like
I'm going to talk about
Zen? Like, because if you have, like if you read their book, like Taoism or Taoism, whatever you want to, however you spell the D or the T, but yeah, I've gotten into that, and that has helped equalize me and given me good precepts to live by.
Sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
Sure.
But not once has that religion, that's not even a religion, but that way of,
I think it's a different
not
thing.
even that way of thought. Not once has it told me you need to do this or you need to worship a God. Nah, it's like, yo, these are good things to follow in your life to ensure that you live a good life and you don't let the wrong things.
It's like the Eastern Gary V.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, let's we agree on that the majority of Jesus's teachings were helpful and great for humanity.
Yeah, except all like the hell stuff and
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we agree on that. We agree that it's possible that there was a God. We do. You're saying your definition is limited. Your definition is limited. My definition is infinite.
I'm gonna go ahead and kind of agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson on this, and he says that he's an agnostic, and not because he believes in a God, but in the sense of like he just doesn't want to like just say like he doesn't, because the whole thing about like having a scientific mindset and scientific methodology is like, I don't know, I have a hypothesis, and I hope that it's right, and you test it out with experiments.
Sure. I've listened to a lot of stuff. I actually really appreciate his
and so I will go now. Am I agnostic? All right, no, but
so I'm trying to find common ground. So we also agree on this idea of love, this idea of empathy, this idea of treating people the way you want to be treated, right? Which is from Jesus, right?
No.
Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That was
Jesus. A precept that far outdated Jesus. Far outdated Jesus. And you know what? It's also not the best precept. Do unto others as you would like done unto you. What if you're a masochist? Do unto others as they would like for you to do unto them.
I've heard that flip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair enough, Jesus. Why didn't you think of that?
You're stupid, bro. Yo, so we agree that there's value in human life, that people should be treated with dignity, that people should be that we should be kind to each other, that we should love our enemies, that like we agree on a lot of those ideas.
Unless it's like a heckler in the audience,
and then you're going for his throat. Then you're going for it.
Well, I mean, I do believe in a very like, I do like the darkness of like, I mean, there's the reason why you do comedy is because there's darkness in this world, and you're there to talk about it because that's what makes people laugh. But like, yeah, be kind to each other, but also roast each other and go to a dark place. And I've heard people make fun of somebody because somebody in their family died, and it was funny, and it's like. Dark. Like also that we can go there too. It's not all. It's I don't want to live in this black and white existence where it's like I don't want to.
No, I get it. I get it. There's nuance.
You know what I mean?
Like one of our homies. I don't know if you saw this on social. One of our homies, T. Ross the Giant, recently was diagnosed with leukemia, and prior to him getting diagnosed with leukemia, we were all kind of cracking jokes, and he was just and we was like, "Yo, like." You can't have leukemia, like you're tripping. There's no way you have leukemia, and it was like cracking those jokes. And then I had a joke, and I was like, "Look, man, like you can't have leukemia. Like I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with your leukemia. You know what I mean?" And he would I wasn't there for this, but he's like, "Guys, if I have leukemia, you have to promise me that you won't stop making fun of me in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, cause that's gonna help me get through it. You know what I mean? So clearly there's nuance, right? Like we're not gonna be like,
Yeah, but Jesus never in the Word of God said, roast thy neighbor.
But I think Jesus was funny. I think Jesus was funny. I think Jesus was fun. I think Jesus had a sense of humor. I think we lose some of that in translation. What advice do you have? I want you to give advice for two people. One person, they're looking at you right now and they're like, oh my gosh, Rufat, he's not a Christian anymore. And they're freaking out, right?
I had somebody text me today.
And
my old college roommate.
Really?
Yeah.
And they have people in their life that maybe have drifted from the faith and maybe have walked away from the faith. What advice would you have for those people and how they should interact and remain in relationship with guys like you? Because you're like, well, no. Come on, you see what I'm saying? Like, we disagree on a lot of these things, but you're one of my favorite people to hang out with, and I tell you that all the time. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I don't say that enough.
No. Same here.
We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy the conversations. We enjoy disagreeing and then trying to agree on something. You know what I mean? So like, what advice would you have?
First of all, it's the same reason why people like think that Christopher Hitchens was this dude that's like anti-God and smoking and drinking. But like, he had to go on the road with William Lane Craig and like talk to him, and like he had to be in the midst of Christians. And I think that there is I get a sense of like, I like being in a room where people don't think like me.
Okay.
And I strive in that, you know, because like I want to build a career where I know how to play with viewpoints and make people like see where I'm coming from, even if it's a wild and radical thing.
I think it also just makes you a decent human.
Yeah, and
I would say it makes you a good Christian.
Alan Watts said this, and this is something that Jesus did. Alan Watts said that the guru, the reason why the only way that men or women will listen to the truth is if it's like absurd. And I think that's one thing that Jesus had going for him, is he knew how to be absurd. He knew how to get under people's skin, like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And I think that's why I like hanging out with you and hanging out with people who I don't really agree with, is because it lets me, it refines my viewpoints, and it lets me not take myself that seriously, and that's I can good. Joke around better.
That's good.
But yeah, what I would say to those people is just like, yo, like when you introduce me and they're like, watch out, dude,
But you understand that was you understand this is YouTube.
I understand.
Okay.
But what I will say to the people on YouTube that are Christian, I am far more moral than you. I am a better person than you. So how dare you?
I can't tell when you're being funny or when you're like, that's hilarious.
I mean, there's truth in that. I do feel like I get my pants tailored and altered. I dress well. I take care of myself. I take cold showers in the morning.
Oh my God, those are all things that make you a good moral person.
And these are not things that are in the Bible that I do. And you're probably dirty.
Any final? Oh man, people are either gonna love this video or they're gonna hate me for this video. Any final closing remarks? Any encouragement for the young Christian?
You know what? If there is a young Christian out there, you're a virgin. Take it from me. Sex is trash. It's not cool. You're from an atheist, no morals. It's stop making such a big deal out of it. I guess you're waiting or whatever, but I just don't think anything in life is that good. It's cool, and I know a lot of like liberals and a lot of people on my end want to make things cooler than they need to be. But at the end of the day, you do something, you get off stage after making a room full of people laugh, and you're back to just regular life, and you got to deal with that life. And you should be comfortable in that silence. You should be comfortable whether you do well or you do bad, you mess up, you slip up. And this is for anybody. You should be comfortable in that silent moment. You should be doing the work when nobody's watching. Yeah. And that's the most important thing. And that's like the big thing about God is like, what if there is no God, would you still be doing right? Because I feel like you know, that thing is not in my head anymore. That somebody's what I need to do right because I need to do right. You know,
that's good. There you guys have it. Make sure you guys are following Rufat, man. Send him many angry DMs and Bible verses. Rufat Camp, right? On Instagram, Twitter. Still on Twitter?
Yeah.
Leave a comment. I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you guys want to hear more conversations like this? Did this make you uncomfortable? I really want to hear from you guys. I feel like I want to have Rufat back on every time I'm in New York and have him on. But I want to hear from you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching this. I appreciate y'all. Peace.